Today, live, local, in the community, and now worldwide. We are Jasper's WJLX 101.5. This is the B&B Show on WJLX 101.5, your midweek go-to for local sports, entertainment, and the best of the 90s. The B&B Show with Brian and Baz starts now.
Hello, everybody, and live from Jasper. It is Wednesday night, and that means it is time for the B&B Show here on WJLX, the flagship station. After a one-week absence, we're back. Did you miss us? Because we missed you. I'm Brian, and now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, WJLX proudly brings to you the master of Manchester and the brawler of Bankhead. He is WJLX's blues traveler himself, crossing the nation and racking up more and more miles than United Airways. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen.
Baz, also known as Sebastian Black, on the radio on a chilly Wednesday night. And Brian, it is throwing me off because we didn't have a B&B show last Wednesday night.
I know. We were broadcasting.
We were, and it's kind of throwing me off a little bit. I haven't, we've been going for every Wednesday since we started on June the 1st, and it threw me off a little bit, having a little off week to broadcast Bevel State basketball last Wednesday.
Well, the next couple of weeks, things are going to be a little weird for us. We'll have a different time slot next week. And the following week, there won't be a B&B show because I'll be in Disney World.
Yeah, and I'll be getting ready to just go down to Pensacola, if not already down there. But, Brian, for people who are not aware, we started out through the show until right now, Wednesday nights from 6 to 9. Now we went from a 3-hour show to a 2-hour show from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. as of right now.
That's correct. And for all you folks who enjoyed the 3-hour broadcast, it'll be back. It'll be back next summer, right around August, when we can begin to pick up a lot more football talk again.
Yep.
But when we have one football game a week in our local area, and just the SEC, which actually doesn't start up until September anyway, it's hard to fill it all up with, when you have basketball and softball, you've got multiple games a week.
Yep.
Some teams, we've seen it ourselves, Bevel, they play sometimes 4 times a week once you get into January. So it's hard to starch out games that are coming up and whatnot, but we're going to the 2-hour format, but the 3 hours will be back. Be
Sure
back
will.
next summer. But until that time, Bass, we've got ground to cover tonight. We, of course, have started off the basketball season last Wednesday night, Bevel State. We'll be talking about them and their next couple of matchups. Tomorrow night, we'll actually be broadcasting the season opener for the Jasper Vikings.
The Coach Burns era is now beginning there in Jasper at the Vikings.
It is official. We will be kicking that off. And then Friday night, we'll be back on the air with football as the Lynn Bears are in the third round of the playoffs. We'll be on the air with that. So it's going to be a busy week, and then next week is just going to be crazy.
It really is.
Really.
It really is, Not to go into detail, we're talking about next couple games, but Bevel was back at home on Monday. Got some other things coming up. Don't believe we have anything Tuesday, do we? Maybe Jasper Viking basketball.
We'll have to take a look at that. I do know that Monday, we will be back in Clem Gymnasium broadcasting the Bevel State game. So we will be doing that. I've got to check Tuesday. I'm not 100% sure, but we will be checking with that. And then Wednesday, we'll have B&B at a different time slot because the Coach Saban show, which normally comes in on Thursday, will be on Wednesday next week. So we'll be doing some alterations.
It's crazy just to think, Brian, we really just started the college football season, and now the last regular season week is next week. It's flown by. It really has.
Who would have thought some of the things that we've seen in college football this year? Who would have thought that we would see it? I mean, it has really, some of the things that have been happening, and we're going to touch on some of the happenings in the SEC, specifically with two different teams who met last week, who might look like they're almost in the same spot, but mentally and emotionally are two totally different ways.
Yeah.
So we will touch on that in our next segment. And as I mentioned, we'll be toddling around through different subjects, both in the local area and also in basketball throughout. And then we've got our player of the week. And it's just going to be one that we will be hearing from this week. We'll go over all the notables, but Bass, we lost all our teams except for Lynn.
Yeah, heartbreaker there, especially for Meek. For me, we had talked about how great of a Meek team this is this year, and don't get me wrong. I mean, they still played great this season, but hate it for Meek there, as they took the heartbreaker this past Friday night, and hate it for them because they look like a powerhouse team that could make it, obviously to the fourth round, possibly go in state championship and possibly win it. But man, they still had a great season. Those players, the coaches don't need to, just hang their head down because they had a really, really good season.
There's nothing for them to be ashamed of at all. A big congrats to them.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be going over all last week's second round action as it went down and a whole lot of other stuff. But Bass, let's go ahead and get into our first music selection. You got the first three, I got the last three.
I do. And Brian, also, too, for people that might be tuning in, we do not have a guest this week. So no guest this week on the show. But it's going to be a very busy next hour and 45 minutes for us because we've got a lot to digest, a lot to go through, and we got some really good music. So we are going to kick it off on the B&B Show with Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve. Back here on the B&B Show, Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve. And, Brian, what do we have going on over there?
Well, I thought we would, for just this segment, we'd talk a little bit about the SEC. This week is really junky. There's no real premier games. Bama and Auburn are both playing slap around opponents.
Yeah.
Bama's playing Austin Peay, which is an FCS team. Auburn's playing Western Kentucky, which is three steps up from an FCS team. I mean, Arkansas Ole Miss, nah, not much. Even though Vandy pulled up an upset against Kentucky, they got to play the garbage. Not much for that. Georgia's going to beat the stuffings out of Kentucky. LSU's playing UAB. Come on now. Mississippi State's playing East Tennessee, which is another FCS team.
Yeah.
Missouri's playing New Mexico State. For all intents and purposes, most FCS teams can beat them.
Yeah.
South Carolina and Tennessee, boy, there's a, whatever you call it. So, this is really, before next week, which is, essentially Showdown Rivalry Saturday, this is a really junky week. But, one of the most interesting things that happened last week was the meeting between Auburn and Texas A&M, between two teams that have had terrible down years. But emotionally, we're going in two different directions. Cadillac Williams was named the interim coach at Auburn, and, against Mississippi State, we saw a different air, a different atmosphere, a different enthusiasm through Auburn than we have seen in years.
Yeah.
It was like a rebirth. It's the other direction with Texas A&M. Bass, they're now 3-7 after the loss to Auburn. They play UMass this week. I mean, they should beat the stuffings out of UMass, but they should have beat the stuffings out of Appalachian State.
Yeah.
There's no way on God's green earth they're going to beat LSU. You can forget that.
No.
This is a program that is in very severe trouble. That Appalachian State loss is the harbinger of this season. They beat Sam Houston State. They beat Miami. And then they beat Arkansas. Since Arkansas, they haven't won a game. They've lost 6 in a row. And let's just take a look at that Appalachian State game, because this should pretty much tell you a lot of things of what happened there. The past 3 years, Jimbo Fisher has been there for 5, but the past 3 years, the worst recruiting ranking that Texas A&M has had nationally overall, the worst, is 7th. So that kind of tells you the talent that is down there. Of course, we know that this year's class, the 2022 class, was rated as some to be the best ever. So talent shouldn't be a problem. Appalachian State, the past 3 years, their best recruiting ranking was 82nd. Their other two classes were 93rd and 99th. On talent alone, just with a below average coach, A&M should have won that game 24-10. Just on talent alone. That they lost that game is the prime reason why Texas A&M is in the spot that they're in, even with far superior talent. They're 3-7 right now. And I don't know how in the world they don't finish any better than 4-8, because I don't see how in the world they've got a chance against LSU.
No.
And of course, a lot of people are saying because of Jimbo Fisher's contract, they don't think he's going to be fired. Boosters have a lot of say on that. I know he's owed some $87 million if they fire him. But if boosters come up to the president and president of the booster club says, you're going to have to get rid of this guy, and they say, no, we can't. If boosters withhold their donations for this next season, what choice do you have?
Mm-hmm.
Texas A&M can't, with all those salaries, they cannot live off of ticket sales and merchandise alone. And that begs the question, because a lot of people I've seen this week are kicking around that Lane Kiffin is the point-on-point man to take over Auburn. You see, I'm not going to say that couldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm looking at two situations, and I say to myself, okay, I go over there to Auburn, and I'm going to have to rebuild a program.
Yep.
I'm going to have to grill it from the ground up. I'm going to have to recruit offensive linemen. I'm going to have to recruit some guys on defense. Things that the transfer portal can't help me at. Or I can sit back, let this flow at Ole Miss, and see what happens at Texas A&M, because I can walk in there. I don't have to rebuild anything. Mm-hmm. All I have to do, I have the talent on hand. All I've got to do is just maximize it, and I might win a national championship in my first year. And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, I think Auburn is a very premier job. They have great atmosphere. They have a dynamic fan base. Mm-hmm. But we know one thing that Auburn doesn't have. They don't have patience. There's a lot of rebuilding that has to be done there, and if I was Lane Kiffin, I would wait and see how all this plays out. You know he can continue to win and win big at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Who knows what it's going to look like next year, especially if the transfer portal, as it has done thus far, it goes his way. Who knows? Whereas at Auburn, he's going to have to rebuild the shell, and it's going to take some time.
That is right.
So what's your thoughts on all this? How do you think this shapes out, even though we've got a few weeks left?
I don't see, I mean, obviously, if any coaching change, I mean, you know, I know they just appointed Cadillac there to Auburn as the interim coach right now. Obviously, Auburn's not going to make a coaching move until after the postseason, you know, after the season's over with. But you're right, you know, Lane, if you're going to have to rebuild that program over there at Auburn. If Lane Kiffin's smart and things fall in place, maybe at Texas A&M, and he's got a decent program there at Ole Miss, but Texas A&M, if things go, you know, falls the way that it could possibly fall, Texas A&M, with the talent that they have, Lane Kiffin could go over there and get something done.
Absolutely.
But it really depends on what A&M does with Jimbo. You know, and this could they give him one more year to see? I mean, what happens there with the coaching job at Texas A&M? I mean, do they just? I mean, obviously, we're looking at possibly them going best 4-8, right? Yeah. Because they can't make a bowl game now, so they're out of the bowl eligibility. At this point, I don't think the smart move is for Lane Kiffin to go to Auburn.
Yeah.
But also begs the question, if Kiffin goes to Auburn, knowing he's going to have to rebuild that program, does he maybe try to bring some guys from Ole Miss?
It's a possibility. With the way that the transfer portal works now, he could.
And I'm not saying, you know, it could go on both sides of the ball. Does he look at possibly bringing those guys too to Texas A&M? Mm-hmm. But knowing you're going to have to rebuild an Auburn University team, do you possibly bring those guys to Auburn if you go there. But what happens if you go to Texas A&M? If they oust Jimbo Fisher out of there, what do you obviously your talent's there at Texas A&M. Do you try to add on more guys that you're familiar with at Ole Miss, or do you just go with the talent you got there?
Well, I mean, with the level of talent that's there, I mean, I think you could shape it however you want to. I don't really know. Let's come back and talk about this a little bit further after the commercial break and get your next song in, Bass.
Commercial break on tap. Last Kiss by Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam coming back on the B&B Show. So commercial break, then some Pearl Jam right here on the B&B Show.
Mouth-watering homemade pizza.
Back here on the B&B Show, that was Pearl Jam, Last Kiss. Brian, back to the SEC drawing board. and talking about them fighting Aggies, Texas A&M, and the Tigers of Auburn. What you got?
Let's shift over back to Auburn. Okay. Whatever move Auburn is going to make, it's going to have to be a dynamic one.
Yeah.
Bass, they're 47th now in recruiting. 47th. So they're going to need a dynamic name to come in there, a name that draws recruits and a name that's proven. Now, personally, if I was Auburn, my first place that I would go would be Hugh Freeze, because he's already known, he's a dynamic name, and instead of a lateral movement from a really good program in the SEC, Freeze would be making an upward movement, from Liberty to back into the SEC at Auburn. We know Freeze's abilities. They're good. That would be my first stop. And I think that would be a really great move for Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
I really do. He's got recruiting corridors that he built at Ole Miss still alive in the SEC. He could use those to help shore up stuff.
Yeah.
Personally, that would be my bigger move. And additionally, we've been talking about Lane Kiffin, and I'm just wondering about, is Lane Kiffin kind of paying lip service right now to make things look really good for future endeavors? He's talking up programs well, but is he doing that to make sure his future is suitable?
Didn't think about that.
This situation kind of reminds me of Rich Rodriguez when Bama was going after him, and Rodriguez didn't come, so they went to Nick Saban. It kind of reminds me of that. I don't know personally if Lane would even want to get into this, considering how much of a job he is. So I don't really know. What I do know right now, though, is Auburn's going to have to strike with a good name. If they come out with somebody who's done real good at, like we're watching right now, Eastern Michigan. Typically one of the worst programs in the entire nation. They're 6-4 right now, which is for them is
good.
Freaking awesome. Yeah. Okay, they come out with a guy like that who's been successful at a place that's hard to win at, but he has no ties to the Southeast or the South, doesn't know how to recruit down here. You're looking at the same situation what you just left out with Harrison.
Yeah.
Not knowing the area, not has recruited down here, nothing. So it's going to be, you're back to square one. And then I would see you're just going to fluctuate again in another 2 years. So they're going to have to strike with a good name, or else you're recycling results.
Yeah. So obviously you're probably thinking maybe somebody that's been in the South, in this, that is now in the South, the Southeastern, or that's previously been there because of the recruiting standpoint. And okay, I could see that.
I mean, there's a couple of names that you can kick around also that might be off the grid in certain ways. He's older, but both of them are older, unlike a young coach like Kiffin, but Butch Davis. They took Miami with one of the greatest teams ever, went to North Carolina, really good with them. That would be a good name. He proved he was one of the worst ever pro coaches ever, but at the college ranks, you can't dispute what Urban Meyer did.
That is true.
I mean, these are two names out there that are just floating around right now that could potentially at least for 5 or 6 years, begin to build your program until they decide they want to retire, and then hand it off in much better shape. I know both those names might be a little cringy, but they have the track records to prove it, not only in results but also in recruiting.
That's true.
I mean, look, you look at Urban Meyer's national championship squad at Ohio State. A lot of his players came from Florida. He already had recruiting ties down there. He knows the area. Butch Davis, was at Miami. He was in North Carolina. He knows these areas well also. So that could open up as well. There's some names that are off the grid that I think could also be a lot more viable for Auburn outside of Hugh Freeze if he doesn't want to take it. I just don't know at this point if you're Lane Kiffin, do you want to really get into a mire where you're having to rebuild it from square one when you've already pretty much got shop set up there and A&M could be open?
Yeah, that's true. Just very curious to see where Auburn goes with this, to be honest. And it definitely going to be something to watch over the next however many months, however long it takes. Obviously, it's going to happen after this season, the postseason. But I mean, you can't wait too late because you got spring practice that's coming up not too long from now. Actually, if you think about it, you've got then you roll into the summer months, and so you've got to get somebody kind of quick at the same time.
And on top of that, there's a key game day before all that, National Signing Day in February.
Yep.
But one last monkey wrench before we move on to our next commercial break. Let's say that the disaster strikes this weekend and A&M loses to UMass. Now, they lost to Appalachian State, and this is way before injuries and all the rest of this stuff occurred. They could lose to UMass. It's certainly within the cards. If they used to lose to UMass, how in the world would the administration be able to keep the boosters and the fans from not saying, you've got to get rid of him and get rid of him now?
Yeah. I just don't see them losing to UMass, though. But the way A&M's been playing this season, I can understand both sides of it.
Yeah. But my whole thing is if they do they throw Jimbo out?
I think that could be the final thing.
Yeah. Because he's going to lose to LSU, but at the very least, okay,
with
a loss to LSU, you're losing to a top 10 team, okay? But if you have, during the course of this season, with the talent down there in College Station, if you lose to both an Appalachian State and a UMass, both in the same season, how in the world would they not pull the trigger on him when he's probably going to end up finishing 3-9 at that point?
UMass is 1-9 on the season so far.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no. You look at it and you're like, there should be no reason for Texas A&M to lose this game. But then you really think about the struggles they are on this year, and then you really start thinking about, man, they could possibly lose this game.
I will say this much right now. I think if in the third quarter this is like a 21-14 game, even with Texas A&M winning, I think they will end up losing that game. If UMass plays them close all the way into the fourth quarter, I think that they could lose it because of the simple fact that those players are sitting back there and they're going, you think of everything that has happened to this season right now, we're struggling to beat a 1-9 non-SEC team. You want to know one bit of good news for Texas A&M? I'm glad they're not playing Vandy this week.
Ooh.
Yeah. because Vandy knocked off Kentucky last
You're
week.
right. Yeah.
How bad would it be if Vandy was the one coming into College Station?
Oh no. Yeah. In a way, I kind of find it funny if they.
I know.
That God, man. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That no. Yeah. They better be glad it's not Vandy instead.
No joke.
But also too, it's like, man, Vandy, and then you think about Vandy, it's like, and then if they do lose to UMass, it's like, man, you just really lost to a 1-9 team.
And it could certainly happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't look up the ratings on UMass, but it can't be much worse than Appalachian State. I mean, when you have a team that's composed of 82nd, 93rd, and 99th ranked recruiting classes, UMass can't be a whole lot worse if they're not equal, right?
Yeah. Just, oh, man. Things are not going good down in College Station, I'll tell you that much. And if they lose to UMass, I would definitely not want to be there.
Bass, what you got up for us music-wise next?
Music-wise, how about we cap off the end of my song list for the night with Nothing Else Matters by Metallica. Here is Nothing Else Matters, Metallica on the B&B Show. back here on the B&B Show. Brian, what you got?
Well, we wanted to take a look at Bevel State, how they've opened up the season. Of course, last Wednesday night, we had our first Bevel State game of the year as they took on the Stillman JV. Bevel State won that 73-54. The following night, there was a two-game series against Itawamba, the first one at home, in which Bevel lost that one 86-73.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was our game Monday night, the return matchup. This was over in Fulton, Mississippi, where Bevel fell 83-66. Bevel will be playing tomorrow night. We will not be broadcasting this game, but they will be playing against MMI, Marion Military Academy, tomorrow night. Our next broadcast will be on Monday when the Bears will host Chattahoochee Valley. But Bass, we took a look at this. We took a look at games that were a lot more different. You were there for the first one against the Stillman JV. And, of course, you were there for Monday night's game. I've seen all three of them. And the biggest difference to me in all of this, against Stillman, we've been talking about this all this time. We talked about it Monday night. Bevel recorded 39 rebounds total, overall. The following night against Itawamba, the rebounding was 39 for Itawamba and 28 for Bevel. On Monday night, over in Fulton, Itawamba had 37 rebounds. Bevel had 21. Now, I know that the fouls are a really big problem for Bevel State. Obviously, also, turnovers are a very big one. But if you're not securing those rebounds, especially on the defensive side, you're letting a team, as we saw Monday night, take 3 or 4 shots there underneath the basket at putbacks. You're not going to win ball games.
No, and that's something that Bevel's got to work on, is that rebounding, because they're just getting out, they're getting beaten on those rebounds, and feel like the matchup could be a lot different if Bevel would control these rebounds. But they're not going up like especially their offensive rebounds. They're not going up and grabbing those rebounds like we saw on Monday night. We made it was like 1 or 2 guys that maybe are going up on offense to get rebounds for Bevel, but that's it. Then you hate to put it that way, but it's like there's really kind of no effort there.
And the thing about it is this. There was probably about 4 or 5 times that we saw it that it was a little bit of a size mismatch, and that's how I get it. The rest of those were guys not going after it. There's just no drive to get in there and grab those rebounds. We saw it from Jemias Davis.
Yeah.
I will say that much. Jemias, throughout, anytime that he's been on the court, he's actively gone after rebounds. I saw it on the second night from Stevenson.
Yeah.
He went to go grab rebounds. And then we saw it the last 6 or 7 minutes from Jalen Lacey against Itawamba. But as a team, nobody's really going after rebounds, and that's concerning, Bass, because if you're not getting that, you're going to probably, if you're not trying to control the boards, you're probably going to lose 90% of the games.
Yeah.
So it's really concerning for me for Bevel. I hope this changes as the season progresses. That the coaching staff will work with these guys and say, "Hey, guys, you got to get in there and you've got to want it. If you don't want it, you're not going to win money ball games."
No, not at all.
that means you've got to actively go after loose balls, after rebounds, after everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a big concern. We'll see how it all plays out starting tomorrow night and then on Monday. But
I feel like, and I might be right, I might be wrong. I feel like if they would control more of these rebounds, get these rebounds, these ball games would be closer. I think it would have been a closer game than, on Monday night with Itawamba, the return game, and maybe back at home, back last Thursday. But they're not controlling these rebounds, getting these rebounds, and that's something that we definitely saw Monday night is. Didn't matter what side of the ball it was on, Itawamba was controlling the rebounds, especially on offense. They were getting those like crazy. And, they got that, they finally subbed that one big dude in, that tall dude.
Mm-hmm.
But still, even before he got put in, Bevel's still not getting the rebounds.
And they've got two guys with size, Kentarius Coles and Dixon. Both of them are that 6'7", 6'8" area that should be able to get in there and grab those rebounds. Matching up against the 6'10", a lot of times the 6'10" is going to get a lot of these, but it's also about wanting it. You might be able to grab a few of them.
Yeah.
We'll see how it all shapes out. But Bass, let's take our 7 p.m. commercial break, and then we'll be back with On the Track.
Yeah, the final On the Track of the year, Brian. So, see what we got going on the track after this commercial break.
WJLX Jasper.
Good variety and
great information.
Yes! WJLX 101.5. The sound of Walker County.
Santa is a busy old guy this time of year, but Mrs. Claus, well, her first stop is at Bernard's Store for Men, downtown. That's where she finds the perfect gift for the jolly old guy in the red suit. You see, Rusty Claus and his band of little elves can hook anybody up with a perfect Christmas gift. At Bernard's Store for Men, you'll find Patagonia, True Grit, Polo, Southern Tide, Southern Point, Smith Lake, and Warrior River tees. And of course, at Bernard's Store for Men, gift wrapping is always free. And they feature in-town delivery. Oh, by the way, there's one more reason why Mrs. Claus makes Bernard's her first stop. The coffee pot is always on. It's Bernard's Store for Men, on the square in historic downtown Jasper, and always on the square with you.
I love you guys.
WJLX 101.5.
More music in 3, 2, 1.
The 2 words we live by. The coach we follow.
All right, blow the horn. Let's go.
The famous call we love to hear.
Touchdown, Alabama!
It's good to be a Bama fan. Join us Saturday as the Crimson Tide take on Austin Peay at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Our coverage begins at 8 a.m. on your home for Alabama football. The Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
This is Chris Stewart of the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Listen to Alabama football all season long right here. Now, more of the B&B Show on WJLX.
And a very big thank you to the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, Chris Stewart, for that promo. Bass, it is that time to crank up the engines for one more time this season. We might have some updates here and there as news comes out in between here and the Daytona kickoff. But before then, Bass, it's time to wrap it all up on the track.
On the track. Well, let's start off what is now, it's been 2 weeks now, pretty almost, since the season officially wrapped up for all 3 touring series for NASCAR. And start off by what happened Friday, November the 4th in Phoenix. As people may know, Kyle Busch, who has drove the 18 car for Joe Gibbs Racing, that is a lot of people like to remember him as the Candy Man, the M&M's, Skittles, Snickers, all kinds of cars that he's ran, paint scheme wise, different candies. He is now going from Toyota to Chevrolet in the Cup Series to RCR. which means there is some changes going on for his Truck Series team. That means Toyota, the manufacturer Kyle Busch Motorsports has ran for a long time, is now switching to Chevrolet in the Cup or in the Craftsman Truck Series now is what it is. Chase Purdy to drive the number 4 full time, and Jack Wood is to anchor the number 51 in 2023, along with Kyle Busch driving a couple races there, and possibly some few other drivers there driving the 51 truck. So then we move over to the championship race that Friday night for the Truck Series. And how about the third time is the charm? He's been in the championship for the last 3 years. And now he has finally done it. Zane Smith gets the breakthrough Truck Series title in a wild overtime shootout. So congrats to that team. And Zane Smith for wrapping up the 2022 championship. Now let's move over to the Xfinity Series. Well, not a lot of action going on in the news besides your champion, your 2022 Xfinity Series champion, Ty Gibbs, the 20-year-old, has won the championship. And Brian, unfortunately, some heartbreaking news that broke out the next morning, that Sunday morning. Ty Gibbs, who had just shared or had just won that Saturday night, the championship, celebrated it with his family. That same night, later on, a couple hours later, Ty Gibbs and big name for Joe Gibbs Racing, Ty Gibbs' father passed away that same night in his sleep peacefully. Hate that for the 20-year-old. That's hard, winning the championship and celebrating it with your dad, your family, your mom, and a couple hours later, his father passes away in his sleep. That's tough. Nonetheless, Riley Herbst returning to Stewart-Haas Racing in 2023. Ty Gibbs, who just won the championship, is moving over to the Cup Series next year. Brian, in a shocking way, and here's why I say this. The 18 car for Joe Gibbs Racing has been a key to the sport for a long time. It's been ran by all the greats like Bobby Labonte, everybody like that. But for 2023, there is no 18 car.
Wow.
There has been no 18 car in the Cup Series since 1991. We knew the possibility of Ty Gibbs moving over to the Cup Series was legitimate. But instead, Ty Gibbs will be driving the number 54 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing there. And it's weird to me, who's been a race fan all my life, growing up watching the 18, seeing the 18 car out on the track. It's a weird move for me. It's definitely thrown me off, but definitely an interesting move. I'm curious to see why they did that, but definitely an interesting move there. Nonetheless, Xfinity Series driver and 2 drivers actually in the Xfinity Series with a couple more that I don't know as of yet. Noah Gragson is running the Snowball Derby in December, first week of December down in Pensacola. And Brian, that's where I'll be. I'll be down at Snowball Derby getting a little action there, a little more racing action there for the season.
Good deal.
By the way, also too, the one and only time I've been to the Snowball Derby, I'm kind of getting off topic here, was back in 2020 during the COVID year. And the Snowball Derby's huge, when you're in the pits, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on down there. But I actually got to talk to Noah Gragson for a little over an hour, and he's a really cool dude.
That's awesome.
Really, really cool. He's from Vegas. He's from the Las Vegas area, and had no idea what a Milo's was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we had to go in that spiel telling him what Milo's was and stuff like that. So yeah, he did not know what a Milo's was because I mean he lives out west and stuff. So
It comes to Talladega, you might want to bring him some Milo's tea.
I'm telling you.
Hey,
look at that.
Bring some of the leaded version, not the unleaded, the leaded version.
There you go. But he is such a really cool guy, to be honest. So I'm looking forward to hopefully running into him again down there in a couple weeks. Maybe I could give an update on that the next B&B show because you'll be gone to Disney World. I'll be gone, so I'll have an update after when we come back from that week. But more Xfinity Series news. Cole Custer, who ran the 41 for a good bit here in the Cup Series, is dropping back down. This was released today, by the way. Is returning to the Xfinity Series with Storthouse Racing. And Tony Stewart got his wish. This is what he wanted. Ryan Preece is replacing Cole Custer in the Cup Series. Will be driving the 41 next year. So that's definitely an interesting move there to move Custer back to the Xfinity Series, but I think it's for the good, to be honest there. Now we move to the Cup Series side, and boy, where to begin there? Trying to look here at where it all is. For some reason, it's not popping up. There it is. Your 2022 Cup Series champion for the Cup Series. Well, he's been coining it and phrasing it ever since the beginning of the season. He said the 22 in 2022, and it happened. The driver of the 22, Joey Logano, has wrapped up your 2022 NASCAR Cup Series championship. And not a whole lot going in the news here for the Cup Series besides what broke today. Ryan Preece replacing Cole Custer there at Storthouse Racing. Something else to look forward to for you racing fans, the Rose Bowl Parade. Brian, you know how big that is out there.
You know it.
NASCAR will be kicking off its 75th anniversary with a float in the Rose Bowl Parade.
Wow.
And if this is what they're going for, it's an interesting look. If you can tell, Brian, by the float, that's an interesting look.
It is, indeed.
But, Brian, for the last time in 2022, this is the final on-the-track segment, besides possibly a couple updates every now and then. But, Brian, this is it. Wrapping it up here, the final on-the-track segment on the B&B Show for this year.
Good deal, Bass, and good job. Let's just stay on the road here because even though we're going to go a tiny little bit early, Life is a Highway. We're just going to stay on the road by Tom Cochran, and we'll be back with the Player of the Week.
Back here on the B&B Show, Life is a Highway. Tom Cochran right here on the B&B Show. Brian, you went out today and revisited the Lynn Bears, as last week we was there. Unfortunately, I didn't get to join you this week for another preview show. But you crowned the one and only Southeast Hospice Wallwin Player of the Week. Talk about who it was this week for the Lynn Bears.
It is our first time in 2022 crowning a two-time Player of the Week. And it was Cale Tittle for the Lynn Bears. Bass, he played a phenomenal game against Addison in that very dominant 41-14 victory. He had 318 all-purpose yards. He threw for 181 yards with a touchdown, and then he added in 137 yards rushing with 3 scores to add in 4 total touchdowns in the game. And I'm telling you what, Bass, some of his passes that he threw were some of the prettiest that I or Woody have ever seen. Just an absolutely magnificent touch. Coach Hastings told me, and we'll hear this tomorrow on the preview edition that we'll be putting out, but Cale only really had 2 bad reads in the entire game. One of them was near the end of the game when he threw an interception, basically almost on a Hail Mary is what you want to call it, to end it out. And the second one was another read, but my goodness, his passing was just phenomenal, and his offensive line was doing a great job, on not just for him, but for the entire team, opening up holes. So went out and talked to Cale today. Here's what he had to say.
Hospice WJLX Player of the Week presentation. This is going to be for round 2 of the playoffs. This week for us, it's Cale Tittle. Now, Cale had an absolutely stellar game against the Addison Bulldogs in that dominant 41-14 victory. He had over 300 total yards, got it done on the ground, also got it done through the air, scored 4 total touchdowns as well. So, Cale, congratulations. That the guys were all on the page with you, be it the route running, be it opening holes for me on the offensive line. Also, the wide receivers, when they were running routes, they were closing out blocks on the outside to make sure that you could get there. So just talk about overall from a team performance, how you saw everybody doing.
Yeah, I thought we played really well as a team Friday. I don't think we had, as the offensive line goes, I don't think we had one quarterback pressure. Really good running lanes all night for me and Cole, and receivers running good routes, and especially, like you said, blocking downfield for me and Cole when we're running the ball and not letting anybody else second level get to us. So it was really good.
Well, I've just got to ask you, going to the third round, you're one of 8 teams left in 1A that are competing for the state championship. Is it getting more and more of a reel of experience for you as you go on?
Yeah, I really can't put it into words. We all, I don't know if any of us thought we'd ever be here. We've worked super hard though, and we're ready to be in the spot that we're in, and we're going to work super hard in practice, and we're going to be ready for Friday. So,
well, congratulations once again. Cale is our first winner of the Player of the Week twice this season for 2022. Congratulations to you. We're looking forward to see how you guys do against Coosa Critterton on Friday night.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Cale Tittle of the Lynn Bears there, and he had some really impressive numbers.
Yeah, just a stellar overall game, and considering the competition.
Yeah.
You know, we have talked so much about Addison this season. To be able to do what they did against Addison really says that this team is playing their best ball right here in the playoffs.
Really are.
Going to be interesting to see how these next 2 weeks shape out for Lynn. We have some notable performances across the Wallwin area to go along with Cale's performance. For Addison, Brian Berry had 11 rushes for 83 yards with 2 touchdowns. For Dora, Sean Pryor, 237 all-purpose yards with 2 touchdowns. Staying there at Lynn, Cole Kelly, he had 19 rushes for 95 yards with 2 scores. Logan Madison, one of Cale Tittle's top targets, had 7 receptions for 82 yards. For the Meek Tigers, Cam Deaver had 23 rushes for 140 yards with 4 touchdowns, and he also added in 32 yards passing. Blake Miller had 27 rushes for 138 yards with a touchdown, and Ori Frith had 98 yards on 20 carries. And rounding everything out, for Winston County, Declan Morgan had 1 rushing touchdown. So congratulations to Cale Tittle, along with all the notable performances from across the Walwyn area. I hate that we come into this week with just one team left. We knew we were going to at least lose at least one with Lynn and Addison playing each other, but Bass, we've got one just left, and hopefully Lynn will continue on. We're going to talk about their matchup here in just a few moments, but overall, this year we've seen the quarterback position, just so many great quarterbacks this year, from obviously Cale Tittle and Sean Pryor, who we just talked about. Cody Hedrick, his wonderful career at Cordova, just a stellar year for him. When he wasn't injured, Josh Day out at Curry was a fabulously good quarterback that we saw. Declan Morgan for Winston County, another really good quarterback. Spencer Rosenfeld for Jasper, great year from him. We really saw a lot of good quarterback played this year.
We really did.
Going to be interesting to see how all this shapes out next year. Of course, we do lose Declan Morgan. We lose Spencer Rosenfeld. I do believe that Sean Pryor is also a senior. I'll have to double check on that. Cale Tittle will be back, which will be very interesting. But
Cody Hedrick as well. I think he's a senior.
Yeah, we lose Cody, who has had a marvelous 4 years. He will be sorely missed, I know. But it will also be interesting to see what we'll see from the other schools. Trace Cagle for Oakman. This was his first year, and I know they had a lot of youth. Will be interesting to see how they develop. I think it was Jake White for Summoning Christian. They were another young team this year, but did manage to get themselves to 5-5 on the season. Be interesting to see their growth. And I think it was Walter Kimbrell for Carbon Hill. Near the end of the season started to pick it up. So we've got some that are returning that we'll see how their growth went.
Curious to see how next season shapes up for these teams, especially these quarterbacks. Some of them going to be getting replaced as they go on due to graduation, but really curious to see with some of the teams this year how the progress they made this year, how they shape up for next season, and definitely going to be interesting for our Walwyn area.
It will be. Before we take our next music and commercial break, Bass, we have a lot of wonderful sponsors here at WJLX that we absolutely love and appreciate. I got to brag on one of them. High Speed Computers up on Highway 78, just before you get to 195, right behind KFC and Papa John's there. They have been working on the computers and working with WJLX for a long time with our computer needs. I recently got a new computer from High Speed Computers, and I absolutely love it. Jim and his staff there are just wonderful. They're knowledgeable. They're friendly. They're an absolute asset for computer needs in this area. So I'm going to brag on them and tell everybody out there, look, if you're got a computer need, whether it be a desktop, whether it be a laptop, whether you just need certain components or you need it repaired, go check out Jim and his crew out there at High Speed Computers, because I guarantee you the experience will pretty much leave you with, okay, I got to go back there next again. So.
Yeah, and they got some different things there. I mean, you named it here, which they've got a website you can go to, highspeedcomputers.com. But, I mean, they got Windows laptops, all kinds here they got listed. Windows PCs, which they don't have any at the moment on the website, which I know they got some in their store. Gaming PCs, MacBooks, tablets, and iPads. Graphics cards for your gaming PCs and PC. They got all kinds of stuff. So definitely go check those guys out because they could definitely use your business there.
So take it from me. I love my new computer. They can set you up. Check out their Facebook page. They update it quite frequently with new deals. So next time you're in the market for a new computer, or you need one repaired, or you just need a certain component, maybe you need a new monitor.
Yeah.
Maybe you need a new keyboard. Maybe you're just looking for an upgrade. Whatever else, go check out High Speed Computers out there on Highway 78, right before you get to 195, right behind KFC and behind Papa John's there.
I've only been in there one time. I need to go back over there. I'm going to be looking for a new gaming PC soon. I need to. Maybe Jim's listening and he can hook me up on the air over here, but I need to go back over there. I ain't seen Jim in a long time.
Go see him.
I need to.
Go see him. All right, Bass. Well, you know something?
What's that?
It's time to bring it home in the last hour as we're going to be focusing more in depth on our round 3 matchup between Lynn and Coosa Christian. But speaking of bringing it home, it's time for Mama, I'm Coming Home by Ozzy Osbourne, and we'll be back after the commercial break.
Brian failed to mention when we last played it, but your home for Crimson Tide football is WJLX, and you can hear the Alabama-Austin P game right here on Saturday. Pre-game does start at 8 o'clock in the morning, but with the programming that we do have going on from 8 to 10 on the air here at WJLX, we will join in progress Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for the pregame, with kickoff being at 11 a.m. right here on WJLX. And boy, we got a good one next week. We'll talk about on next week's show the rivalry game, Bama and Auburn.
It is the Iron Bowl edition 2022. And, Bass, to be perfectly honest with you, this can be a scary Iron Bowl because of how supercharged Auburn is now with Cadillac in there. He brings an excitement that is infectious not only to his team but to the fan base around.
Yeah.
And, the one thing that I can say honestly that's the best thing for Bama is this game's not being played on the plains.
No, it's been played in T-Town, Tuscaloosa.
If anybody saw that game from last Saturday night there between Auburn and Texas A&M, that crowd was lit.
Yeah, it was.
So
it was.
That's a huge advantage for Bama, and we all, as we always know, Auburn plays Bama hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game that they look forward to. So that's going to be that. But I'm hoping this week I'll be missing the Bama game for the first time ever, but and first time in a long time. But I'm going to be in Homewood, I hope, at Sanford.
Yeah, you are.
We've got a couple of local stars that are enjoying being SoCon champions with the Sanford Bulldogs.
They are. That congrats to them. When was the last? Is this the first time they've won it, or when's the last time?
I don't exactly remember, but I could tell you, it's such a rebound because last season I think they were 3-8.
Yeah,
it wasn't much of a season, but they've already won the SoCon with one conference game left against Mercer this Saturday.
Congrats to them, man. That's awesome.
Big time. Well, Bass, we're going to now take a look towards the playoff scores from last week.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start off with Class 4A. Dora at home, unfortunately, fell to Randolph, 47-37. This looked the score that we first got updated at halftime. This score looked pretty bad. Dora was able to rally, but unfortunately just not enough as they fell. But still,
I didn't think Randolph was that good of a team.
Neither did I.
That kind of shocked me when I had saw the score at halftime, because I was right with you. I guess when you guys found out the score at halftime, I was shocked by it. I really was. It really shocked me. I guess I didn't do enough research into Randolph or something, but man, I hate that for Dora. I really do.
Halftime score was 33-15. Dora managed to come back, and they scored 22 points in the second half to round off 14, but it wasn't enough. Just wasn't enough. So Dora falls to Randolph, but what a season for Dora. They had a 2-3 season to start off with. Won their first region championship for Coach Williams in his tenure, and the first one since 2011.
Yeah.
Just a sensational year. Advanced to the second round of the playoffs. So congratulations to Dora. I know they would still much rather be playing right now, but still you can't take it away.
No, not at all.
So that takes care of Class 4A. In Class 2A, we all saw this one. The Winston County Yellow Jackets fell to the number one team in the Class 2A, 35-6. We had talked about Fife coming in. They are winners of 4 out of the last 8 state championships. They play Tuscaloosa Academy, which we knew gave Winston County fits, but with the way that Fife is, they know the path to get to the state championship. It would not surprise me to see them back at Auburn and vying for another one.
Yeah, honestly, we know the team that Fife is. So no surprise here. It's like, once again, just like Dora, it sucks to not have a Wallwin area team, advanced in that third round, out of the 2A region, but nothing you can do about it. It's when you get paired up against Fife, you might as well just call it quits, because Fife's a really good ball team.
They are indeed. Our team that we didn't see getting put out, the Meek Tigers, who had been undefeated, they were 11-0 on the season. They lost to Pickens County 44-36, and Meek was up 8-0 at halftime, and then the scoring fest continued as into the third quarter. It was Meek 20-16. Pickens County scored 28 points in the fourth quarter to Meek 16 to come back in that game. And I tell you, that's a heartbreaker. I thought that Meek would get this and they would go on and eventually in the fourth round face whoever won Addison versus Lynn, which we now know it was Lynn. Yeah. I thought it would have been this matchup. Tough heartbreak for the Meek Tigers, but this is success this year. The first undefeated season. They went to the second round of the playoffs. They had a 2,400-yard rusher, and Cam Deaver had one of the nation's top sack leaders in Braylon Roberts. So I hate the outcome, but still, we can't do nothing but smile for Meek, considering how long that this program has just toiled in the cellar for the longest time. Their past 2 seasons have just been something to watch happily.
Yeah, and it's nothing for Meek to hang their heads down. This is another really good season for Meek, and it's going to continue. They're going to be good again next year, and it's going to be another good season to watch Meek. I'm curious to see what they can do next season.
Absolutely. Our last game, and of course we broadcasted this one. We've been talking about it. The Lynn Bears beat Addison 41-14 to advance. And Bass, when you look at a complete performance, Addison really only had one sustained drive. And that was near the end of the first half, when they were able to capitalize on a Lynn interception and score within the last couple of minutes of the first half. Their other play was a breakaway 71-yard touchdown run by Brian Berry. Outside of that, Lynn scored on every single drive except the one that ended in the first half with that interception. They scored on every single drive, and Addison they couldn't get anything mounted. It's like I said, Brian Berry led the team in rushing with, I think it was 82 yards or 83 yards, right around in there. But Bass, take off that 71 yards, and you can see how nasty Lynn's defense was.
Yeah, and Lynn's defense is lights out good, and they proved it in this game against Addison, because, man, that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, they were just constantly pressuring the Addison quarterback. They were having great penetration, and they were shutting down the runs at nearly every turn. So Lynn looked stellar coming in, as they're going to head to Gadsden on Friday night and take on Coosa Christian. We're going to analyze that matchup right here next after we hear Hanging Around by the Counting Crows.
How, and I really don't know how. That is the first time I've ever heard this song.
Are you serious?
Dead serious.
Oh man, that's one of my favorite.
It's a really good song. I don't know how I've let it slip by me, but that's the first time I've ever heard that song.
That is just a chill out and have fun with with your friends on a Saturday night. Just around the house playing pool. Whatever
Sounds like
else.
it. It really is. I like it. I like it a lot.
I love that song. Love, love, love. It's one of my favorite of the 90s. Bass, it's time to do a little diagnosing. The Lynn Bears going to be traveling to Gadsden on Friday night. We'll be broadcasting the game. They're going to be taking on Coosa Christian. Lynn comes in with an 11-1 record. Coosa Christian comes in with an 8-4 record. Let's take a look at the opponent first, because we don't have any teams that have played Coosa Christian in the Walwyn area. They've had quite a turnaround season. The first part of the year, they actually started off 2-6. They lost to a team from Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And then they had an open week, and ever since then they've been winning games. They have actually avenged a shutout loss that they had at the beginning of the season to their opponent last week, Spring Garden. Spring Garden started off the year beating Coosa Christian 27-0. Last week, Coosa Christian beat Spring Garden 31-28, which is quite remarkable. Like I said, we've had no head-to-head matchups, but the closest thing that I could say, Spring Garden is over in that region that has Donahoe, which was Lynn's first-round opponent. They beat Donahoe 43-14, and of course, Lynn shut out Donahoe 42-0. So similar outcomes there with an opponent of Donahoe and Lynn versus Donahoe. So it doesn't tell us a whole heck of a lot about Coosa Christian, other than they've seemed to have kind of righted the ship from what we saw from them at the beginning of the season. I mean, beginning of the season, they were, really having struggles. They did end up rallying to finish in second place, but outside of that, there's not really a whole lot more that we can say other than they've just really caught fire.
Yeah, you're right there. Looking at a key game here that has been played for Coosa Christian, they played Appalachian back on the 14th of October, and they defeated Appalachian 42-6. Well, Appalachian played Addison in the playoffs first round and lost to Addison 66-22. Then you go back and look, Addison, who just played Lynn, lost to Lynn 41-14. So interesting there, tell the tape between that. But you're right, we don't really get much out of Coosa Christian.
Well, here's some factors that we do know about. We do know about the Lynn Bears. We know that offensively they can come at you in so many different ways. They run the ball extremely effectively. Cale Tittle is an absolutely dynamic dual-threat quarterback. We can look at the overall statistics on the year. He is, I think he's got somewhere around 2,800 or maybe even 2,900 all-purpose yards in between the rushing and the passing. He's got a beautiful, crisp pass. And unlike what we saw against Summoning Christian, where he was mainly targeting Logan Madison, Jacob Tidwell, who we talked to for the preview show, has become a really good second option. So they've got more than one threat. And, of course, they do pass out of the backfield a lot. So that has to be covered a lot. And this offensive line that they've got is just nasty.
It is.
They did not get any kind of hurries at all against Cale Tittle, talking about Addison's defense. I think Lynn might have had one run that maybe got to the line of scrimmage and another one that got maybe 2 yards. The rest of the runs were at least 5 yards. So this is an offensive line that does its job well. But Bass, on the other side, okay, Lynn has given up 160 total points this year. Let's take out their 3A competition. They lost Alabama Christian 64-26, and they beat Tarrant 49-6. And Tarrant is, of course, that's a 3A program, just like Alabama Christian. Mm-hmm. So let's throw out the 3A games. Means Lynn against 1A competition has given up 90 points all season long. Wow. They're not even giving up 10 points a game. You look, they gave up 14 to Addison. They shut out Donahoe, gave up 14 for Hurritville. Against South Lamar, who is or was a playoff team, they gave up 9 to them. Shut out Berry. Only gave up 6 to Brilliant. Pickens County, which is in the third round of the playoffs, scored 20. That's it. Holy Spirit scored 13. They shut out Summoning Christian. And Marion County, who was also in the third round, who will play Pickens County, 14 points. The defense is equally as scary as the offense. I saw that with my own eyes. Yeah. These are guys that are fast. They penetrate. They have good, extremely good pass coverage ability. Lynn can dictate a game on offense, but they can also shut you down on defense.
Yeah, and that plays into the hands for both sides of the ball for Lynn there. It's going to be interesting. It really is. Now that you tell me about the points they've allowed, per game or all season against 1A, I don't know if Coosa Christian stands a chance.
I think they stand a chance. What I don't think is how tremendous of a chance this is. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at Coosa Christian's head coach. He has only been to the playoffs 5 times. And this is his first year with Coosa Christian. They've been to the playoffs. Back in the late 2000s, he had 2 separate playoff runs with Cleveland. When he was at Class 3A Asheville, he didn't take them to the playoffs. So he has not quite been well-versed in the playoffs. We know Mark Hastings' tenure in the playoffs.
Yeah.
This is his first playoff run with Addison, but he was playoff after playoff after playoff with Oakman. Coach Hastings has seen so many different schemes. He knows what to do. I just don't know if Coosa Christian is able to penetrate this Lynn defense. It ends up being a scoring fest.
Mm-hmm.
Lynn can stay toe-to-toe with anybody. They're not going to have problems converting a third down or outscoring you. If it goes the route of a high-scoring game, Lynn can easily put up 55 points. I have no doubt about that. So I've got to think on coaching. I got to think right now that you're looking at Lynn and saying to yourself, coaching by itself with a long experienced veteran playoff coach like Coach Hastings, that's definitely in that favor, and in a close game, that could be enough.
Yeah, it really could. I'm definitely curious to see what can happen in this ball game, and man, I hope Lynn comes out of this because it's going to be interesting that 4th round to see who they pair up against.
I would dare to say it's most likely. I hope it's Marion County, because if it's Marion County, the fourth round WJLX broadcast would be back at Lynn. Pickens scares me a little bit more because it's really hard to beat a team that you play close twice in one season. And we know Pickens County and Lynn was 21-20 in overtime.
That's true.
Lynn and Marion County played once this year, but Lynn won that game 31-14. Whereas Pickens-Lynn was just a 1-point game. If Pickens ends up winning it, it goes, and Lynn ends up winning it, then it goes to Pickens. So it's going to be very, very, very tough to shape out. Personally, my hope is Marion manages to take it. The game moves back to Lynn, and Lynn will win that rematch handily. I believe that they can without a whole lot of a problem. And I'll be able to listen to a state championship game driving back from Disney World.
There you go.
That's what I hope.
That'd be perfect.
Bass, with a 2-hour show, we're already wrapping it up.
It is, man. It's crazy. It flies by.
We will be back next week with B&B. Will be on Wednesday, but it'll be a different time as we have to slide everything for the Coach Saban's Fro. Some programming notes tomorrow night. We'll be on the air with Jasper Viking basketball. And on Friday night, we will have the third-round playoff matchup between the Lynn Bears and the Coosa Christian Conquerors. I love that.
Oh.
The Conquerors.
Okay.
And then Bass, of course, will be with me on the call from the Clem Gymnasium on Monday night as the Bears will host Chattahoochee Valley. But Bass, it's time to grab that sign, flip it from open to close because it's closing time.
It's closing time on the B&B Show. Thank you for everybody tuning in. Till next Wednesday. We'll see you next Wednesday right here in the WGLX studios.
Closing.